Hello, I'm joined by my friend Jermey.
Hi.
And we're doing a movie review. The film we want to review is the 1972 independent black comedy Pink Flamingos, and we both have the Criterion Blu-ray, although his came with the vomit bag. For some reason, mine didn't come with a vomit bag. Pink Flamingos was written and directed by John Waters, and I think this was his third feature film, I believe. But it was definitely the film that I think this was the one that really sort of made John Waters an underground superstar.
Yeah.
He would eventually go more mainstream with movies like Hairspray and Serial Mom and Crybaby. Now, for Pink Flamingos and some of the movies that John Waters did before and after, he really wanted to combine the sensibilities of the exploitation films of Herschel Gordon Lewis and George Romero with the art films of Andy Warhol. Now, Jermey, you are the one who wanted to review this movie with me, so what is your opinion on Pink Flamingos?
Well, Christian, it's one of the most vile, repulsive, disgusting movies of all time, and I'm sure that John Waters would take that as a compliment. In fact, let me read you what some critics have said about it briefly. One of the most vile, stupid, and repulsive films ever made. Like a septic tank explosion, it has to be seen to be believed.
And you see, I saw a very wholesome movie about family values, and, it's a very moral film, too. John Waters even said on the commentary, this is like a Catholic movie, in a way. Pink Flamingos, so I saw this movie for the first time with Jermey a few weeks ago, and I watched the movie like 5 times since then. Yes, the movie is vile, it's repulsive, it can even be disturbing at times, but this is also an absolutely hilarious film as well. And that's owed in no small part to Divine. Yeah. Divine is absolutely hilarious in this movie. What was the actor's real name, do you know?
Harris Glenn Milstead.
Okay, yeah, now he was a drag queen, I think even before he met John Waters, but Divine is sort of a persona that John Waters helped create, that he basically, I think John Waters said that he wanted Divine to be like a cross between Jane Mansfield and Godzilla. Now, Pink Flamingos was a small independent production, but was picked up for distribution by Bob Shea of New Line Cinema, which at the time was a very small independent company. This was still a good 12 years before A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is the movie that made New Line a mini-major. Now, the plot of Pink Flamingos is it follows a criminal named Divine, who is on the run, and she's hiding out under an alias in this small trailer, living with her mentally ill mother, who they keep in a playpen, and her son, who she seems to have an incestuous relationship with, along with their traveling companion, and for the most part, they just want to be left alone, but there's this married couple called the Marbles, who it turns out are actually kidnapping women and impregnating them to sell the babies to lesbian couples, and the Marbles are absolutely jealous of Divine's status as the filthiest person alive, and what ensues is basically a war between these two families over who is the filthiest person alive. So, what do you think of the characters in Pink Flamingos?
They're so outrageous and they're so out there. It's just, you can't take your eyes off them. They're so entertaining to watch, especially Divine. I think everyone's good here, but I think Divine is easily the best actor in the movie.
Oh, definitely. And what I love about this character in the movie is, yeah, she's a bad person and is a filthy person, as her title would suggest, and so is her whole family. Yet, oddly enough, her family is kinda likable in the movie, too. I don't know if that's just me, but I did find myself kinda rooting for them throughout the film, especially compared to the Marbles, who the Marbles are absolutely disgusting people, but disgusting on a whole different level, because, John Waters even pointed out that technically the Marbles are the filthier people, because at least Divine and her family, for the most part, just want to be left alone, whereas the Marbles are, like, kidnapping innocent women and having their servant rape these women, so the Marbles are absolutely despicable human beings, and you do not feel bad at all when they get their comeuppance at the end.
No, you do not. Yeah, there's also Mama, played by
Edith Massey, yeah.
Who,
Eggs! Eggs!
Is the Eggman here yet?
Ah! A turd! Oh no, a turd!
There's also Crackers, Divine's son, who has a disturbing fetish about chickens, which gets graphic in one scene.
Yeah, the chicken scene. Which, if you're somebody who's sensitive about animal cruelty, you might not want to see that scene. I mean, John Waters even said the chicken basically died in that scene.
Oh yeah, this was well before PETA, too. PETA didn't exist back then. They would not be able to get away with him fucking a chicken today.
Yeah. What do you think of the Marbles as villains?
They're good villains. They truly are despicable people. You just want to see them get what's coming to them. They're a servant, too, who clearly likes to play dress-up.
Yeah, and you see their servant, like, when they catch him, like, dressing up as them and, like, imitating them, you almost feel sorry for him because of how clearly abusive they are towards him, but then you remember what he did to those girls, and it's like, yeah, I really can't feel that sorry for you, dude.
You know, Raymond Marble also has a habit of going around and, you know, flashing his penis that has a, what is it,
At one point he attaches like a sausage to his penis,
Yeah.
and the other time he attaches like a turkey's neck to his penis.
Yeah, so he does that, and he flashes it to random women, and he flashes it to one woman who turns the tables on him, and it's just hilarious to watch.
Yeah, it's a transgendered woman, who actually was a transgendered woman, according to John Waters. There's a friend of his who, I think was like one of the first people in Baltimore who actually went through the whole, like, gender reassignment surgery.
Yeah, she had her bottom surgery, I think, a week after they filmed that scene. Yeah, I mean, the whole cast of this movie is great. You know, you've got Divine, you've got Edith Massey, you have David Lochary, you have Mink who would appear in a lot of John Waters movies.
Miss Cotton's the character's name, right?
Yeah, that's the blonde-haired companion of...
Yeah, what was the actress's name again?
I think it was Mary Vivian Pearce.
Okay, yeah. I love her in this movie. Like, I love when the mailman shows up. She's like, it's a fucking mailman! When they open up the package from the Marbles, she's like, a birthday card! A fucking birthday card! So, Jeremy and I happen to know an actual talking lobster, and this lobster is also a professional movie critic. So let's hear Mr. Lobster's thoughts on Pink Flamingos.
Oh, it was awful. What the hell was John Waters thinking, making a movie like this? What the hell is the point of it? Who cares who's the filthiest people alive? What a stupid concept. And don't even get me started on that dog shit-eating scene. How revolting! I didn't think that he could be any more disrespectful after the way he misrepresented my people in Multiple Maniacs, but I was wrong. I was so very, very wrong. In Pink Flamingos, you actually see a guy fuck a chicken while he's fucking a woman at the same fucking time. You also see a guy make his asshole sing, which is a sight that I'll never be able to get out of my head. How anyone could possibly enjoy this movie, I'll never know. So, all in all, I didn't like this movie. In fact, I absolutely loathe it. What kind of sick, disturbed people would actually enjoy a movie like this?
Oh boy, there's just so much to talk about with this movie. I even said to Christian, you know, after you watch this, there's no way you won't want to talk about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of really like, for me, probably the most disgusting scene was the singing asshole. I thought that was pretty gross.
Yeah, for me the most disgusting scene was when they're licking the furniture and you see Divine start to drool all over it. That was just... I have to look away when that scene plays. I can't watch
But
it.
what's also hilarious about that is Apparently the supernatural does exist in this universe because when they lick the furniture, it puts a curse on the furniture, and when the marbles come back, the furniture literally rejects them.
Yeah, that's right.
Connie, the couch rejected you! But this chair's okay! Ah!
Yeah, this movie depicts things like rape, incest, cannibalism, bestiality, and probably a whole lot of other sick, twisted stuff, too.
Yeah. And again, even though, Divine and her family are the heroes of the film, again, they're not exactly good people either. I mean, they do violently cannibalize those cops in that one scene. Yeah. Granted, the cops were fucking with their party, so maybe the cops had it coming. I know John Waters talked about how the Manson family actually had a huge influence on this movie. He actually used to, when the whole trials for the Manson family was happening, he used to go to those trials just to watch them. And in the movie, you see, on a building, it's spray-painted Free Tex Watson, who was one of the members of the Manson family. It was also one of the people who killed Sharon Tate. And you also see a picture of Susan Atkins, one of the Manson girls, on a table at the Marble's home, which I think is interesting. I know John Waters also said that he kind of made this movie to kind of make fun of hippies in a way, which is funny because he also admits he was kind of in that group too. Yeah. Now, I know John Waters has said that the film is sort of apolitical, and he didn't really have a political agenda in mind when making this. I do think there are some themes that you could pick up from the film, whether Waters intended that or not. I do honestly think there is sort of a political agenda to the film, but what I think is interesting is the film very much attacks both the right and the left, in the sense that it's very much making fun of the counterculture movement, but at the same time, it's also kind of a middle finger to the prudes in our society, which of course could include people on both the right and the left. In so many ways, I feel the Marbles are kind of representative of the kinds of people in our society who, on the surface, appear all morally upright, and they publicly condemn certain people, but you realize behind closed doors, they're complete scumbags. And then you have Divine's family in the movie who, Divine and her family, they are scumbags, but they're at least open about what they are, whereas the Marbles have to hide that shit. Here's our friend John giving his thoughts on Pink Flamingos. Now, he also did a review of his own on his YouTube channel of this movie, which he also did with Jermey.
Hello everyone, this is my short brief thoughts on Pink Flamingos. This is a very disturbing, gross-out, over-the-top movie that I don't know what to make of. This is the kind of movie that you must see it to believe it. This film was very fucked up. It was over the top and the kind of movie, what the fuck did I just watch? Between the cannibal family and the rapist, I don't know who was more fucked up. It's amazing how they got away with making a movie like this back in the day. A guy has sex with several chickens, and that was before PETA at the time. I've known about John Waters' reputation as a filmmaker, but I haven't seen a lot of his movies. I only saw his Hairspray remake. The ending where Divine eats dog shit. She really ate dog shit. This was for real. This is one of the most disgusting, gross things I ever saw in a movie. This is a movie I'm sort of glad I watched for the experience, but will probably never go back to rewatching it ever again anytime soon. This is also a movie I would not recommend to everyone, unless you're curious about John Waters' movies and you can stomach his movies without vomiting. Also, if you're not easily offended, thank you, Christian, for having me on board for this, and I will see you all next time.
And here is some video of John's reactions to Pink Flamingos the first time he saw the movie.
Oh no, I want to accept your gift. Oh no, accept it as a loving son should. Oh no. A son that was killed for you, steal for you, even die for you, Mama. Oh, yes, Mama, accept your gift. Accept it as a loving son should, Mama. Yes, Mama, I'm yours. Completely yours. Oh, no.
I gotta go date a real girl after this movie.
Oh, Mama. Mama. Oh, this will clinch. This will ruin this house forever. Oh, Mama. That's it. That's it. Oh. They're my balls, Mama. That's it. Oh.
I hope that wasn't real dog shit.
It was. John Waters is a very interesting man. I've had the pleasure of meeting him twice. I got him to sign a bunch of stuff, and the second time I actually got a photo with him, which was great. But yeah, he's definitely someone you want to know more about. He's someone, his movies range from vile and disgusting to, more mainstream, wholesome family entertainment. He definitely embraces shock.
Mm-hmm.
He embraces disgust.
Now, one of the most infamous moments in the film is like the last shot where Divine eats the dog shit. But you know what I find funny about that is, like, I heard so many people say, oh, that was the most disgusting part of the movie, and I'm like, did you not see the rest of the fucking movie, though? That seems tame compared to the rest of the movie.
Well, I wouldn't say it's tame. I would say I think it overshadows a lot of the rest of the movie, but yeah, it's definitely not the only disgusting thing about it.
Yeah, there's also like the scene where Divine gets a steak and then puts it right, by her, if you pardon the expression, cooch. She puts it right between her legs, and then later takes a shit, I'm assuming with the steak still between her legs, and then you see her cooking the steak and she gives it to her family. Yeah, the movie is gross. Like, it is definitely a gross movie. It's funny, I'm typically not a fan of gross-out humor, but for some reason it worked in this movie for me. And I just thought the film was absolutely hilarious. I also think, like, some of Divine's rants in the movie are absolutely hilarious, too. Like, oh, this is a direct attack on my divinity! Or, like, at the end where she's like, Connie Marble, I find you guilty of first-degree assholism.
I think my favorite line from her is when she tells the reporter, I certainly hope so. I didn't invite you here to jerk off, I've known about this movie for a long time. I used to read about it all the time in these film books when I was a kid. I first saw it for the first time in 2014, and, I was just blown away by how revolting this movie was. Hell, could this movie even be made today?
Not in the same way. Definitely not in the same way.
Oh yeah, like I said before, the chicken fucking scene would not go over well today with probably both audiences, and of course PETA, animal rights activists groups.
Yeah, and even in that scene, like, the girlfriend of Crackers, who we realize is actually a spy for the Marbles, it kind of borders on rape, I hate to say it. Like, it almost seems like because it seems like she's not into that at all, which makes the scene a little uncomfortable to watch, even though that character, Cookie, is quote-unquote one of the villains of the film. It's still,
I mean, in the context of the movie, it does seem like rape.
Granted, those were staged, of course, the rape stuff, but, like, the chicken, I think, was probably hurt, though.
Oh, yeah.
So here's my friend Chris Espinal giving his thoughts on Pink Flamingos. So what do you think of this beautiful little film?
This is the most weirdest film I've ever seen in my fucking life, bro. The movie is just so fucking weird. And I can see how it was offensive during this time because all of the Manson tributes are plastered all over the place. It had everything that everybody feared during that time, And I like the fact that I know that he directed his movie trying to be offensive, but I like the fact that the director just hired all of his friends, all of his colorful friends, his homosexual, transgender, didn't matter. He just put it in that movie. And during the time, it was, pretty not real. It wasn't really like out there like that. So I love the fact that he did that. There's a lot of crazy shit that goes on on this thing that I wasn't expecting, and I heard a lot of things about this film. I saw a YouTube video talking about it, but it took watching it to really understand how fucking wacky this film is. basically these two families are trying to, these two different people are trying to outdo each other on who is the most vilest, evilest person ever. And it's the most wackiest antics ever, man. And the way the shit goes is just, ugh. I was told that a lot of the people in the background of the film weren't really within the gag. So everything that their reactions are all genuine. And some of the takes that some of the characters do are they kind of caught me by fucking surprise, because I didn't see a lot of that shit coming. Towards the end, where the main actor, this is a man, pretends to be a woman, literally ate shit. He ate shit for that scene. There's a lot of crazy shit that I don't want to ruin, but there's a lot of really fucked up things that really took me by surprise, man. But overall, I had a nice time watching it. It was really good. As far as I enjoyed it, I find it very hilarious. There's some scenes there that was just so wacky, I had to laugh about it. It's just fucking off the balls, and I enjoyed every moment of it. I enjoy how unrealistically these characters are, you know, and I like the fact that it's a movie that don't take itself too serious, but it does tackle some things, you know. I heard that the director had some mixed feelings with the hippies during that time, so there's a little bit of that implicated in there. I can see him saying things about, like, again, the Manson family, and I don't know exactly what his take on cannibalism is, and kind of how, like, wacky, like, I think he was trying to do something about, he was making fun of, like, how serial killers are, like, how they try to do some over-the-top things, and then just create characters as based off of how over-the-top weird they're trying to do. Like, they're just trying to out-top each other, out-weird each other. Nonetheless, it's a joyride, and I fucking loved it. I thank Christian a lot for putting me onto this movie.
You know, John Waters almost made a sequel to this.
I heard that, but I know the actor, I know Divine's not his real name, but he didn't want to do it because he was really trying to do more mainstream stuff.
Yeah, and also the death of Edith Massey put a stop to it.
Although I do remember, like, on the audio commentary that's on the Criterion Blu-ray, and I think that commentary was actually recorded sometime in the 90s, actually. But, like, he says at one point, oh, I still want to do a sequel, and I think Anthony Hopkins would be a great Divine. Oh my god, imagine that, Anthony Hopkins as Divine. Now, while there was never a direct sequel to this, John Waters did follow this up with Female Trouble in 1974 and Desperate Living in 1977. And all three of these films make up what I think John Waters calls his trash trilogy, or his trilogy of filth. Now, this character Divine, created by John Waters and Harris Glenn Milstead, actually appeared before this in movies like Multiple Maniacs, and I know some of John Waters' short films as well, but Divine would go on to be kind of a pop culture icon. And I know Divine did have an influence on the world of drag shows. Also, the character of Ursula from The Little Mermaid was inspired, at least visually, by Divine. I could see the film's usage of music being kind of an influence on, like, Tarantino, the way Tarantino uses music in some of his films. And I heard, like, a lot of the gross out shit in this movie was kind of an influence on Jackass as well.
Yep, that's right.
John Waters has actually had some appearances on Jackass. I could also see Pink Flamingos having an influence on Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects. Now, I don't know much about this, but apparently John Waters actually did a kid's version of Pink Flamingos. It was done as a play, and he had kids playing all the major teenager characters. Now, obviously, being something for kids, he removes all the objectionable shit and all the stuff that would be inappropriate for children. Or at least I sure fucking hope so.
Yeah, this movie definitely has its place in film history, I think.
Yeah, and especially, like, cult cinema and, like, underground cinema, definitely. You know, this was, like, I think, like, one of the first real midnight movies.
Definitely, and actually, I think when Bob Shea got hold of it for distribution, I think he first put it in gay porno theaters, which John Waters was against, even though, of course, as a gay man, he has nothing against gay porn. But
yeah,
Pine would go on to have a very good career after this. He eventually broke into mainstream stuff, I think. You know, he performed a lot of drag shows. He actually appeared on an episode of Tales from the Dark Side. And, you know, he was, at the time of his death, he was breaking into the mainstream. You know, he had just appeared in Hairspray, which was a big success. He played 2 roles in that movie, by the way.
Okay.
You know, the day after he died, he was actually scheduled to appear as a guest star on the sitcom Married with Children. He was going to be playing Peg's Uncle Otto, but unfortunately he passed away before he could.
Okay.
But, you know, he was a major, big talent. And it's a shame that he died so young.
I'll admit, this is actually my first John Waters film. I've known about the guy for years. Actually, as a teenager, I used to watch IFC a lot, and IFC used to have all these documentaries on, like, underground films and, like, independent cinema, and they would always interview him on these documentaries. So that's mainly where I knew him from, and of course, because of his role in Seed of Chucky, that's also how I knew John Waters. But yeah, officially this was my first John Waters film, and I do hope to check out more of his stuff, but mainly more of his, like, independent stuff. I'm not sure if movies like Hairspray are really going to be my thing, you know?
Well, he also did some more mainstream movies that were still pretty undergroundish, you know. Pecker, Cecil B. Demented. That one I definitely want to show you, Cecil B. Demented.
Okay.
You know, they definitely show, I guess you could say, the perverted side of certain things.
Here are Mr. Lobster's closing thoughts on Pink Flamingos.
I would, if you're a John Waters fan, I would definitely recommend checking this film out. And, you know, but I would only recommend it if A, you're not easily offended, and B, if you have a strong stomach. Because this movie is vile and disgusting.
You see, I'm actually planning on showing this to my church group.
Really?
Do I look like I have a church group?
No.
So yeah, that was our review of Pink Flamingos, and bye.